As Rangers fans, we know that a goaltender is the backbone of a hockey team. At Abundant Wealth Management, we are your financial backbone, offering financial planning, wealth management, tax planning, and estate planning services. To schedule your free consultation, head to www.abundant-wealth.com. That's www.abundant-wealth.com. Abundant Wealth Management. Live, plan, triumph.
You're listening to Rangers Radio, your home for end-to-end coverage of the New York Rangers. With your hosts, Brendan Azoff, Zach Domino, and Steve Pappas. Blue Shirts fans, the puck drops now.
Tonight is game 82 of the Rangers season. There will not be a game 83, but for all of us fans, tonight is even more heartbreaking because we will be saying farewell to the legend, Sam Rosen. After 40 years, tonight's game is going to be the last for him. He's the only play-by-play voice that I've ever heard, that you've ever heard, Zook's ever heard, and Zook will be joining us in just a little bit. But kind of crazy to say that the time is finally here to say goodbye to Sam Rosen, and it's so sad that it's not in a better season. But we will dive into tonight's game. We're going to talk about off-season plans because that's where the New York Rangers are at. They're going golfing after tonight. But before we do all of that stuff, Steven, what's up, my man? I know you got something to put out there.
Yeah, doing fine. We're just gonna get ahead of this, and we're not going to talk about it any more than kind of what's been reported today with Artemi Panarin, who was accused of sexual assault by a Rangers employee. That was settled. There's an NDA involved in that. That was from The Athletic this morning. It was settled out of court. Again, an NDA is involved in that, but as of now, just the accusation around Artemi Panarin for sexual assault. Peter Laviolette would not comment on it today. Just referred back to the statements that were made earlier. It's something that you can't avoid talking about, but we're not going to be giving any sort of opinion or anything on that. Just, saying the news. And when we get updates about it, if we get updates about it, we'll make sure to talk about it because it is something that needs to be talked about if those accusations are true. But at the moment, there's not enough to go into a full conversation about. But just getting ahead of that, and we can talk about the final game of the season right now.
Yeah, just another dark cloud over what's been a really tough season for the New York Rangers. So moving past that, because obviously, like you said, it's all, everybody knows what we would know right now, so there's no reason to harp on it. But there was another quote today that came out from the New York Rangers, and this one was from Mika Zibanejad as we welcome our buddy Zook into it. Let's see if I could pull him up. There we go. What's up, Zook? How you doing?
What's up?
New mic.
New mic. Look at this. The kids joining the club over here.
It took 82 games to get the new mic. Much like the Rangers taking 81 games to win their first multi-goal comeback of the season.
Hopefully this mic doesn't have a mute button on the other side because I know you like to click that off.
It's the same exact mic.
Oh, geez.
All right.
No, the thing was I didn't click mute. When it unplugs, it automatically mutes.
Gotcha. All right. Excuses start already. We're only 3 minutes into the show. But, like I was saying, Mika Zibanejad came out and he had some very interesting comments today. I know that on this show we've speculated a lot. Obviously, he's turned around his second half of the season point-wise. I think that there's still been mistakes that have been noticeable, but you can't say that he's been in the same slumber that players like Kreider have been. But his quotes were, "I know what my contract says. Both parties agreed to it. I've invested a lot of time in New York." So just by saying that, it sounds like if he has a conversation with Drury, he has the ultimate say on whether he will waive his no movement clause. And that comments do not sound like that's something he wants to do right now or for the foreseeable future. Now, if the Rangers take a direction that doesn't kind of fit where Mika Zibanejad is at in his career, because obviously at this stage he does want to compete for a cup, that might be something that they talk about. But if you had on your bingo card an off-season board of Mika Zibanejad being part of the trade talks, it seems like a very long shot that that's going to be happening.
Yeah, and listen, I know Mika's going to get shit for the comments that he made, especially after the season that was, but Hockey's a business, and we talk about hockey being a business from the management side of things when they ship players across the country on a day's notice, have to move. This is part of the business. You were given a no movement clause. So why, when the team's not going well, then why do you then have to not honor your part of the deal that you have earned through your career to use that? So I understand he's going to get shit from people that don't necessarily understand the situation and the year and a half, 2 years that he's had with this team. The last 2 years haven't been great for Mika, but the second half of this year has been a lot better with JT Miller coming in. But again, it's a business. It's part of the business. You might not like the decision of Mika trying to wanting to stay around, but for a guy that has basically had most of his professional hockey roots here in New York City, and you're given a no move clause, and you like the place, then why do you want to move? So, obviously we would all like to see Mika have a better season next year, more production, better defense, a little bit more oomph in his game, I guess is the right word. Yeah. I don't want to say effort. Every now and then you'll see games where he might not be all tuned in, but outside of that, I think he's, in tune with the game. Sometimes it's just a lack of skill or a lack of speed that beats him. But at the same time, I don't think you can get mad for him for wanting to honor a contract that was given to him by Chris Drury, right? Like, you gave him the no move clause. So now that you're in a pickle, why do you expect him to then bend the knee for a general manager who very clearly won't bend the knee for anybody, right? So if I'm Mika Zibanejad, I think if you like being in New York, first of all, show it next year. When you get on the ice, the production's got to be up, but I think, good move on his part to stand firm on that one, especially if he wants to be here. And that's kind of where we're at the moment. Who wants to be here? Who wants to be a New York Ranger? And as of right now, Mika Zibanejad is the only one that is publicly coming out and saying that I want to be a New York Ranger and I want to be in New York. So you might take it the wrong way. You might take it as he's being a prima donna and, not wanting to help the team out. He can help the team out by scoring goals, by being effective on the power play, by being an effective penalty killer, by being an effective two-way center next year, whether that's top line minutes, probably not, but in any way possible, if he can help the team next year and he wants to be here, he's got my bid for being on this team.
Yeah. I mean, if you want job security, and is my mic volume good?
Yeah, you're good.
Okay. If you want job security, the Rangers are the place to be because they give no movement clauses away like candy. I think Chris Drury doesn't know that you can give a contract without that. It's like ridiculous. And my dad doesn't know much about the contract side of this sport, but he was one who always said it to me like for years. And I never thought it was that big of a deal, but it's actually crazy. If you look at the Rangers contracts, it's like, my goodness, it's you give them more money, you give them more years, and then you give them incentives like no movement clauses. It should work the opposite. You give them a no movement clause, then you should get something back for that, like less years or less money. It's just another thing about Chris Drury not knowing his head from his ass. In a perfect world, which the Rangers obviously don't live in because they're a nightmare, they're a mess. I literally hate them. They've changed my mood over the past few weeks to becoming just hating everything. But in a perfect world, Mika kind of fits, right? In a perfect world, Trocheck isn't a 2C, he's a 3C. So Mika kind of slots into that 2C with JT Miller as that 1C. The problem with that is we've seen nothing this season that makes you believe that Mika Zibanejad can be a 2C on a good team. The other side of that is before this year, and what Steven can often allude to and is right in this fact, is we've seen 5 or 6 years where he can be a 1C. So if you're planning on him being a 2C on a good team, you're buying into the 5 years before this season where, to give Mika credit, everything's gone wrong. Not just him. We could just pick a name from a hat, and if that name isn't Will Cooley, Igor Shesterkin to an extent, and Adam Fox, we're going to be able to talk negative about that player. So, I mean, are you going to buy into this year? Are you going to buy into the last 5 or 6 years? I don't think Mika is the biggest problem with this team. Do I think he's the biggest movable piece that then opens you up to be able to do more things? Sure. But, I mean, if you bring him back as a 2C and you go into your season with Miller, Mika, Trocheck, that's something. The bigger problem is the defense, and the bigger problem is what Chris Drury has done with these contracts. But, I mean, so be it. If he wants to stay, it's not the end of the world, but then you probably got to move a bunch of other smaller pieces to equal what would be one move in Mika.
Yeah, I agree with you. I think if he wants to stay, like you both kind of highlighted, that's a good thing, right? The Rangers need people that want to be here, especially after this kind of just catastrophic season, really, in terms of the morale of the group, what's gone on behind the scenes. It's just everything that kind of can go wrong has gone wrong and snowballed. So the fact that he wants to be here, that's great. All I say is show us that, right? And like the second half of the season was much better, but you can't make $8.5 million a year, have 5 more years left in your deal, and want to be here and just show up for half of the season, a quarter of the season. That's the type of guy in Zibanejad that's a leader on the group. He's somebody that we've seen him have nights to remember. I mean, I go back to the Capitals 5-goal game. I go back to the big OT goal in the playoffs he scored against Montreal. This guy's had moments for the Rangers. He's shown up in the playoffs before, and the Rangers need guys like that. And, for me, if he comes back, am I going to be upset? No. Do I think that $8.5 million could have been used elsewhere as they start to retool? Yes, but that's something that is completely out of his hands. He's doing what his contract obligates him to do. And it's also something that's out of his hands because the Rangers are kind of in this state of flux where we don't know what the heck's going to go on this offseason, whether they're going to retool, rebuild, keep the same group. So he's got to do what's best for him. Now, I don't know about you guys. There's no lineup decisions for tonight yet, so I don't think it's worth talking about tonight's game at this point. But I did want to switch gears to where they go from here. And the Mika Zibanejad quote kind of leads into that because his best friend on the team is Chris Kreider. And if I was making a bet, I'm placing the bet on the fact that this is Chris Kreider's last game as a Ranger. And I saw a lot of discourse on social media over the last week or so about half of the people are saying, good riddance, it's time, blow up the core, this and that. The other half are like, you give him an ovation tonight. I'm somewhere in the middle. I think that you can be upset at the season that you've seen from Kreider. I think that there's times where the lack of effort's evident. I think there are times where he's kind of put this on himself because we've seen such glimpses throughout his career of the talent that he has. And then there are so many stretches where he's just not noticeable. And a player of his size, stature, speed, skill should always be noticeable, whether they're in the point column or not. So I think it does have a lot to do with that. But Chris Kreider, regardless of whether tonight's his last game as a Ranger or not, has been a great Ranger. He's at the top of the leaderboards for most of the categories offensively. He's been one of their key performers in the postseason throughout his career. And I think you do have to tip your cap to that. But by tipping your cap to that and saying how good he's been, you can also acknowledge the fact that his time as a blue shirt has passed and that the Rangers would be doing a disservice to the franchise by keeping him around much longer. I think his time is done. He had those runs. He had those opportunities. They weren't able to get the job done. And with the moderate no trade clause, like Zook, you mentioned, there's so many no movement clauses. He's got the ability to actually be moved at $6.5 million of a cap hit. It's time. So I just wanted to toss it to you guys. What are your
Who's
thoughts
taking
on
that though? And you guys know more than me.
The Boston Bruins. We've I think that's an easy fit for him being from Massachusetts. And I don't know if you'd want to.
What are you getting back? Like, are they taking the full cap? Do you have to eat some? Like,
well, Boston got rid of a lot of cap.
Boston, yes.
They're looking to add players. They have a high draft pick. I'm honestly at the point where
but why would another rebuilding or retooling team? And again, it's serious questions. Yeah. Why would they take him?
Because I don't think that every team thinks he's washed. I think that there's still something left with Chris Kreider. For me, I take everything that happened this year with a grain of salt because I think it was a trickle-down effect throughout the lineup from the beginning of the season to the end. Everybody just got disinterested, right? You usually don't see that many players struggle unless there's something else going on behind the scenes. So I take it with a grain of salt this year. I think he could help a team like Boston who needs, forwards at this point. They have Pastrnak and nobody else. So Boston would do it just to give Pastrnak a sense of, okay, we're still looking to compete a little bit. But, from the Rangers' perspective, if you have to throw in like a Zach Jones to make a deal work where they take his full cap hit because you don't envision Zach Jones being a part of your future, I'd do it. Now, I think that would be a mistake. I think that Carson Soucy should be gone and Vakanainen should be gone. But they've kind of hamstrung themselves a little bit with the contract situation now in defense. I'm going to talk about that in a little bit, but Steven, I'll let you talk a little bit more about Kreider.
Yeah, I mean, Boston's got $28 million in cap this upcoming offseason. That's a lot of money. So, I mean, if you're trading him to a team like Boston, who, like you mentioned, is one forward at the moment in David Pastrnak, I think the Bruins also let out a letter, sort of in the same, not really in the same extent that the Rangers did a couple years ago, but a letter to the fans. The owner did yesterday about, you know, the struggles of this season and the ups and downs, and mainly the downs of a franchise that is known for winning. So I don't think, you know, we're a show that focuses on the Rangers, and we know that the Rangers in a big hockey market town don't like to rebuild. And I'd be very shocked if the Boston Bruins, with the pedigree that they have and the success that they've had in the past, would also want to avoid a rebuild. And if a guy like Kreider, who's from the area, that plays a game that when it's right can net you 35 goals in a season, you know, there's at this point, it looks like Chris just needs I say Chris as if I'm on a first name basis with him, but Kreider has you know, his time is up and a change of scenery is needed. And what better place to go than Boston, than where you grew up in your hometown, where you played your college hockey, where you're well known around the area. You know, it's not like, you know, New York and Boston, or, you know, New York and LA, where it's a 6-hour flight. I'm sure he's able to get home when he can, but and there are plenty of other teams that are out there. But again, the modified no trade clause. But it just shows this whole Chris Kreider situation, how quickly a relationship can sour. Because if we talked less than 12 months ago, I have a tweet that's public that says that Kreider's number should have gone into the rafters after that Game 6 performance against the Carolina Hurricanes. He has had some great moments. He has had some career-defining moments with this Rangers franchise. But at some point, that runs out. And it's one season, I get it. But at the same time, it was such a poor season from an effort, from an execution standpoint on his part, that I think it's time. I really think it's time for him to go. I think it's his last game. You know, we're gonna see. We saw Brock Besser leave Vancouver's arena with a signed jersey from everybody from the team. So we'll see if Kreider's walking out of MSG tonight with a signed jersey as well. But you know, I think that's a guy that you're gonna, come October, he's not going to be in your lineup for game 1 of the 25-26 season. So on top of him going, you're going to have to replace that production at its you know, average, which is 20-25 goals, which is going to be a tough thing to do in the offseason with a guy like Chris Drury running the ship. But I also wanted to go back to his best friend Mika when we you know, close the book on that. When we talk about Mika as well, both of the Rangers' deep playoff runs when he's been a part of this team, he has been a producer. Even if you want to go back to 2016-17, the year that they lost to Ottawa in 6 games, he had 9 points in 12 games, almost a point per game player. The first year they went to the conference final, 24 points, 10 goals in 20 games. Last year, only 3 goals in the playoffs, but 13 assists, 16 points, 16 games, another point per game average in the postseason. So Mika has been shown that come postseason time, he is a player. The goal numbers needed to be up last year. I think if he's able to you know, score a couple more than 3, they're in the Stanley Cup final and possibly winning the Stanley Cup final. But you know, he's not a guy that shies away from the light. So putting a bow on Mika, I think it's fine that he's coming back. I like what he's doing. You know, it's both ends of the business. If you're going to praise general managers for, you know, doing business to get a guy off the roster, I don't see why you can't praise a guy for wanting to be on a roster when he has that right in his contract. But you know, Kreider, modified no trade clause, it's a little bit tougher to trade him, but I think there are definitely some suitors, and I think there's some suitors that Chris Kreider would want to be at. Oddly enough, if you look at the Rangers lineup and if you look at the Rangers cap, you know, breakdown, there's one defenseman on this team with a either modified no trade, modified trade, no move clause, and it's Carson Soucy.
Doesn't Will Borgen also have
Excuse
one?
me, Will Borgen,
Yeah.
not Carson Soucy.
I don't see any world in which Will Borgen is getting dealt. I think that they're going to go next season with Fox, Morgan, Schneider as the right side.
I just
think
more
it's
mean the
past
fact that Adam Fox has absolutely no protection in his contract. Actually, Carson Soucy does. I was right. Carson Soucy does have a no trade clause in his contract this year, but that's this year, and he has a modified no trade clause next year. Will Borgen's no trade clause goes in next year. So
that's why Miller had to have a
Fox
talk with Soucy, right? Because Miller had to like sell Soucy on New York because he would have had the ability to shut it down if he wanted to.
Adam Fox has a no movement clause now for the next 3 years.
I don't even want to move.
Oh
him,
yeah,
but
I'm looking at this year. I was looking at this year's numbers. Excuse me, but yeah, next 3 years is modified.
So back to Chris Kreider. Fuck Chris Kreider.
Okay. Zook has turned from the positive one into
all right.
I mean, I cannot wait until that guy is just a trivia question that Kenny Albert and Joe Micheletti are asking on the thing. Because in 5 years, maybe my tune will change, but he quit this year. So I'm certainly not going to talk positively about a guy that literally quit on the team. And it started when we moved on from our trainer. Like, how soft can you be that got your mindset about a team completely different? And look, the guy completely 100% quit on the team this year. So I'm certainly not going to sit here and talk positively about the guy at all. Has he been a great Ranger over the years? Sure. There's been a lot of great Rangers over the years. Most of them have won nothing. He's another one that's won nothing. And again, he literally quit on us. He quit on us. It's very easy to be positive and a go-getter when your team's playing well, like the Rangers have been the last 3 years. And I've told all my friends this. You find a lot more out about guys in years like this. And the light's been shown on guys like Chris Kreider. That we've been lucky that for a lot of our years and for a lot of our tender, a lot of his tender, which I'll give him credit for, he's been a part of, the Rangers have been good. It's very easy to show up night in and night out when you're picking up points. The first season in a long time that the Rangers have been absolutely miserable, he's just gliding around the ice. And does his back have something to do with that? Sure. But, I mean, back aside, you just see that he's been completely off and it's nothing to do with playing. It's honestly a shame that he finds himself in the lineup each night because he sucks and he doesn't want to be out there. So the best case scenario would be to put him in the press box up top. And to go to Boston, I hear everything you guys are saying. Maybe they haven't watched him this year at all, but he's washed. And from a team that's your rival and trying to get playoff spots that you're trying to get, I think anyone that takes Chris Kreider is potentially helping us more than they're helping yourself. So I'm really interested in what type of deal the Rangers are going to find for him because, I mean, sure, is David Pastrnak going to think that Boston is going for it because they traded for Chris Kreider? Like, they're going to suck if they put him on the first line. They're going to suck if they put him on the second line. He's not either of that type of player. So, I mean, I'm praying to God that the Rangers can find someone to take him and we don't have to withhold any of his contract. And if we can find someone to take Kreider and Soucy in the same deal, I'm literally going to go streaking around my block because that might be the worst forward and the worst defenseman in the entire league. So I'm just so done with him. And yes, we'll be sitting here in years when he's retired. And after his, time in the league, I'll be able to look back more fondly. But right now for this game tonight, like for the conversations you've been talking about on Twitter, Brendan, screw him. He gave up on him this year. This is not the time to talk positively about a guy that's literally given up on us. And you can say things about other players, about their effort, about their production. He's literally for the past weeks not been trying. And I think everyone gets that when you watch him. He's been gliding around the ice, dropping from the first line to the second line, to the third line, to the fourth line. If you went on a meritocracy, he's the guy that should be getting pulled from most lineups when we've gotten guys to go back in. Instead, in the Peter Laviolette way, we got to play all these guys that everyone's hoping isn't a part of the team next year to sit guys on the bench that we're hoping are part of our future. It's just the whole thing's a nightmare, and he's as big of a culprit on the ice this year as anyone. And half of it's production, half of it's just the mindset. Like, he doesn't want to be there. And when a so-called leader of the team is showing that he doesn't want to be there, that trickles down. So I know when Brendan brought up the fact that, yeah, there's something going on behind the scenes if everyone's having a down year. A big part of that is a guy who's been here his whole career, that's looked at as a leader, clearly is showing that he doesn't want to be here. That trickles down more than a lot of other things.
Yeah, I mean, I understand where you're coming from. People are getting on Alexei Lafreniere this year, and rightfully so. I think he's had a terrible second half of the season, but he has as many assists this season as Kreider has total points. And it's been a bad season for Chris Kreider. And if it is his last, which I think we're all in agreement it will be, that's a tough way to go out, because he had a 52-goal season. He tied the franchise record. He's had big moments in the playoffs, but this season it speaks for itself. It's been bad. And you could, talk about the injury. You could talk about other things, how bad the rest of the group's been as well. But nobody has had as rough of a season in its entirety than Chris Kreider. And when you look at where the Rangers were last year and where they are this year, and you look at the disparity between points, there's the largest one is Chris Kreider. And if you had another 10 to 15 goals on the power play from him like they've had in years past, they're not on the outside of the playoffs looking in. They're in that 8 seed or 7 spot right now. And it's tough to say, because obviously, I think that we would all have liked to see them in the playoffs, regardless of whether or not they had a chance this year. It's just fun to watch playoff hockey with your team in it, but they're not there. You could attribute a lot of that to Kreider, the power play, and just a step back from a lot of people. But before we get past it, I do want to say that you kind of mentioned it. Kenny Albert is the new Rangers play-by-play guy.
He's
we
great.
Kind of breezed over that. He's the consummate professional. I think he's still doing TNT, and I think they have the old LA Kings play-by-play guy, Alex Voss, is going to be the backup. So pretty good crew there to replace Sam Rosen. It's not going to be the same, and it's going to take a little bit to adjust to not having Sam every night. But I mean, the Rangers you knew they were going to get somebody big, and Kenny Albert is probably
How much do you have to pay him? Because
I have no idea.
I don't know.
Don't they have to pay him a bag to become a local play call? What is he on TNT?
He's been their local Rangers.
Yeah, he does local anyway. But think about, Brendan Burke does it for the Islanders. He does local and then TNT. Back in the day, Doc Emmerich did the Devils, and then also
John Forsland was doing
John Forsland, Kenny Olchek, Eddie Olchek, excuse me, Kenny Olchek. Jesus,
it used to be Kenny and Eddie. So I see what you did
there. You will never, ever in a million years hear me say a bad word about Kenny Albert. He's
a great announcer.
On top of that, he is one of the best guys ever. I had him on a podcast in college. Unbelievable. Like, anytime I've had any sort of interaction with him, he's been nothing but great. Like, he is, not only is it one of the best announcers, broadcasters in the game that we're going to be able to listen to again at the top of his form, just an all-around incredible human being. So I cannot be more happy for Kenny Albert and for the Rangers. For us, we get to listen to it now for the majority of the season. A lot of the times we forget that he's doing radio. We don't get to hear his calls for every single Ranger game, except for the national games where, he's got to be a little bit more, two-sided, even though people don't seem to think that national announcers are two-sided. The national announcers always hate your team. That's what it is. The broadcasters always hate your team. But to be able to get Kenny in the light of, an MSG employee, talking about the Rangers as the games go on, I'm all here for it. And I cannot wait to hear him on the broadcast next year.
Makes it a little easier that it's a voice we know too. I feel like there's going to be a huge adjustment if we just went to someone random. If you're a New York sports fan, Kenny Albert, the voice. Pretty sure he does a bunch of Knicks also.
He does everything.
Yeah. So he's a voice we all know, and I'm the biggest Sam Rosen guy in the world, obviously, for personal and just Ranger reason. It's going to be a good switch. It's going to be a good switch where Kenny Albert's going to do a fantastic job. He obviously knows the game. And yeah, it's like if you've seen any of, going from like Peyton to Luck or Favre to Rodgers and stuff like that, that's kind of what we have going on right now, going from one great to the next. I don't think people realize how big of an adjustment it could have been from losing Sam Rosen and going to someone else. I was just thinking about it the other day. He's been doing it for 40 years. I'm 30 years old. Like, just growing up in my house, my dad was always watching the Rangers. So you would just be walking around your house hearing Sam Rosen. And this is a sport that's 3 to 4 times a week for half the year. When you have a booth and you're a huge sports fan, I don't know how many more voices you hear in your life. Like, growing up, it was my mom, dad, it was Sam Rosen, it was Keith, Ron, and Gary. Like,
how lucky? I mean, how lucky?
like,
I don't want to. I'm not going to
crews.
speak. I'm not going to speak about the Yankees because I'm not a huge fan of Michael Kay.
I hate
as
Michael
as
Kay,
a
but
broadcaster.
I will say I've watched Mets games, and the crew that you guys have in the booth there is awesome. I
mean,
do
it's
like
all
Michael
time.
Kay because I
Yeah.
have, grown accustomed to him over the years. I also liked him on the radio before, I even kind of associated him with the Yankees as well. But I think that the Yankees have a good thing with Paul O'Neill and David Cohen, but Gary, Ron, and Keith is it's classic. Like when I get Ron Darling on a TNT baseball postseason game where he's doing the Yankees, it's fun to listen to.
It's
I
fun
will
because
say
Keith
this.
just does no research. Keith does no research.
He just
is
talks
awesome.
about the game. Yep.
As a Mets, Jets, Rangers, and sort of Knicks fan, like I watched the Knicks in the playoffs last year. It's about the extent I'll watch basketball. The crew that I've gotten to listen to in my entire life is Sam Rosen, Gary, Keith, and Ron. Bob was choosing on the radio for the Jets.
Great.
And then why am I blanking?
Mike Breen and Clyde.
Mike Breen and Clyde Frazier for the Knicks. I mean, that's unbelievable, the amount of talent. And you should expect it. It's New York City. It's what it is. It's the greatest city on planet Earth with the most eyeballs on it. So I'm so lucky to have these guys that are icons respectively in their sport that are calling every one of our games that we listen to. It's unbelievable, and it's a good family story as well. I don't know, did you guys ever get the chance to read Kenny Albert's book?
I did not, but I also did not realize that he's Marv Albert's son for
Correct.
a long time.
Yeah. Yeah,
For a
I mean,
long
Marv
time.
Albert was a Rangers voice starting in 65 and went all the way to 94, 95 was his last year. So it's a good family story, right? Of a guy that was calling Ranger games seemingly before they were even on television. And now all of a sudden, his son is the main play-by-play guy. And it's amazing. And in a season where so much has gone wrong, it felt like such a breath of fresh air to have something like that get announced.
Yeah, fresh voice in the booth, and hopefully a fresh start next season will come for the New York Rangers, and it'll be better than this year. But I do want to say before we start to get to the game tonight, wrap things up, there are a ton of RFAs that the Rangers have. The UFAs now, after the trades that they made at the deadline, are only Nicholas Aube-Kubel and Calvin DeHaan, excuse me.
You think Calvin DeHaan wants to come back?
I don't think he does. I mean, unless you've been living under a rock, I think
sure?
Calvin DeHaan's pretty pissed off. I think he actually called the situation fucked. So Calvin DeHaan will be back.
He's right.
Let's
just also say that as
absolutely
well.
is right.
Don't get lost on you that like a day later they trudged out Juuso Parssinen to talk about how good the organization has been to him.
I was cackling when I saw
mean,
that.
is there anything more of a damage control PR event than
been a nightmare for the Rangers PR?
this whole week? This last 7 days since our last episode have had an ungodly amount of things happen for a team that stinks.
For a
Calvin
team that got
DeHaan's a folk
eliminated,
hero.
nobody's talking about the fact they got eliminated because there's just quotes and stories coming out every single day. But
Drury probably loves that.
Yeah, I'm sure he does. I'm sure
Not Drury. Sorry, Dolan. Dolan
news.
loves that.
Well, Dolan's going to have to step in this offseason because I think he definitely likes to spend money and he likes to win. And he knows that the Knicks are doing well. They haven't. I don't think they're going to get over the hump again this year. But the Rangers and Knicks both being in the postseason is a huge revenue driver. So don't think Dolan's not going to be motivated. But when you look at the Rangers right now, right? RFAs this offseason. Will Cooley,
6x6.
DeAndre Miller, Adam Edstrom, Matt Rempe, Zach Jones, Arthur Kaliev, Juuso Parssinen, and Matthew Robertson. All those guys need contracts. So I know it's a lot there. I know that there's been a consensus that Will Cooley should be brought back. That contract, I think, is going to be a huge piece in terms of how the Rangers can navigate the foreseeable future because he's a guy you want to lock up, but he's also a guy that at his peak might only be 60 points, and he's going to be a reliable guy. Now, I'm not saying that's a bad thing. I think Will Cooley does everything well. He's the type of player the Rangers need, but you also can't give a boatload of money to a guy that's not going to be a high-end offensive player for you. Keandre Miller's been a question mark. I think we've all kind of forgotten about Adam Enstrom and how effective he was. I think you have to bring him back.
Yeah.
Matt Rempe's shown something, and I think it could be a cheap deal to keep those two together on a fourth line. But then you got the question marks, right? So I think the question marks wind up being Zach Jones. What do you do, and how much do you give Keandre Miller, if anything, at this point, and Juuso Parssinen? Because to me, there was talk about bringing Kaliyev back. He has not moved me in any way, shape, or form in the games that he's played. He's been rather unnoticeable. Parssinen, as of late, has been a little bit more noticeable, but that's another guy where it's just like you're signing him and praying that he does anything of value next season. And who does he play over in your top 9? Because he's not a fourth line guy, so you're going to put him over the Berards, the Offmans, the Perreaults, those guys that need a chance. Like to me, Parssinen and Kaliyev, if signed, are going to be that extra forward.
I'll go down the list really quickly because I'm looking at it right now. Edstrom, 2 by 1.5 seems fair.
I think 1.5 might even be high for him.
All right,
because he was hurt half this year. This is his first full year in the league. I think you can go 2 by 1 and
2 by 1.
Year.
All right,
Yep.
We'll go 2 by 1. We'll go Cooley 6 by 6 with the cap going up. 6 by 6 for a guy like Will Cooley.
I would try for 4.5, 5 if you can get it.
It's either
someone
6,
could offer sheet him. I was reading that a lot
6,
more GMs are going to offer sheet this summer because it's been
surprised.
like an unwritten rule, but like now that slowly it's been done more, like, and the NHL is finally getting with the times and the other sports, I think there's going to be a lot more offer sheets this year.
So with Cooley, it's either 6 by 4.5 with every no movement clause under the sun, or 6 by 6 and you cannot get the no move clause.
What do you mean?
If someone offers
sheets,
Will Cooley an AAV of over $6 million, the Rangers get a first round and a third round pick as compensation.
oh,
Then,
please.
Okay, then that's fine. Then I will
I'll drive him to the airport.
That's all I'm saying.
Yeah, I'll move him to the airport or drive him to the airport if that's the case. Arthur Kaliyev, goodbye. Matt Rempe, 2 by 1 again. I mean,
Yeah,
I don't really know.
I'm not giving him anything.
Give him a pay
much.
bump. Give him a bit of a pay bump.
I'm looking at it from this perspective. If you could have Edstrom, Rempe, and Carrick as your fourth line, all at $1 million, so $3 million total in your fourth line, with those guys, how they played as a trio when everybody was healthy, I don't think that's a bad move to have. I know people are iffy on Rempe. I think that if he can stay out of the box for a full season, has actually shown that he has the ability to forecheck and play the game hard. And him with Edstrom together and Carrick now we don't know if Carrick had just a miracle year where he was good at points or if he's actually going to be consistent for the 3 years that he has a contract with the Rangers, but I don't mind that.
All right, let's keep going. Where am I at? DeHaan's a UFA, definitely not staying around. I'm on the wrong sheet. Juuso Parssinen, either goodbye or 925. The max AHL pay. He's making the least amount possible to be an NHL player right now at $775. Yeah. So I mean,
he sucks.
925. Are we really going to get upset over 925?
No. It'll be him and Rempe. We'll switch off on that spot.
Yeah. Keandre Miller, I'm giving 5 by 5. 5 by 6. I'm more of a fan of him than the rest of a lot of people are, especially Zook, who does not want him.
Now I'll pose the same question I did with Will Cooley. Somebody offers sheets Keandre Miller $6 million AAV, and you're going to get a first round pick and a third round pick.
Yes.
I'd think about it, but probably.
Because in my mind, that $6 million that you freed up, you could look at the UFA market or make a trade and then try to bring somebody else in.
I think the Rangers are honestly hoping for that. I think the Rangers are praying that someone offers sheets and they get a first and a third and that money.
It's really, really hard with the compensation to offer anybody more than $4.5 million in an offer sheet.
So that's what it is. It's over 4.5.
Once you get past $4.5 million, it goes from 1 to 1.5 is no compensation. 1.5 to 2.3 is a third round pick. 2.3 to 4.5 is a second round pick, and anything after that you start to include first.
So why are we offering him anything more than 4.6?
I mean, if somebody offers that, and you have to be the one to match unless he signs a contract with you first. So theoretically, somebody else can offer him 4.6, and then the Rangers have to say, I'm going to match or I'm going to take
A first-round pick?
Yep.
My highest offer to him is 4.6.
What was the number for first-round pick?
First-round pick starts at $4.58 million.
And that's cap hit, not total?
That's average annual value. Yeah.
All right. So Dylan Holloway being 229, that was what? What were those picks that
229 fell at the top tier of a third-round pick.
So they got a third-round pick back for Dylan Holloway, who's been great in St. Louis.
Yep.
I'm blanking on who's the other guy.
Pick?
Who's the other guy?
The other guy was Broberg, I think.
Philip Broberg's had a good year too in St. Louis, I think. And I mean, I think offer sheeting is such a touchy subject in the NHL because it's frowned upon among the GMs to do it. And unfortunately, or fortunately, depending on how you look at it, the NHL is a copycat league. So just because one team did it and it succeeded for them, I don't necessarily think that it's going to blow up this offseason because one team was successful at offer sheeting people. I think I don't want to say got lucky, but they put guys in the right situation. Are there teams where Keandre Miller and Will Cooley will be, in the right situation if you wanted to offer sheet them? Sure. But I also think they're in the right situation at Madison Square Garden. I think Will Cooley is going to be, if you want to talk about losing Chris Kreider, I mean, Will Cooley is Chris Kreider 2.0 with more physicality. Yeah, he's the guy that gets to the net front. He's a big guy. He is able to, if you want to switch him out on the power play and put him in front of the net next year, then so you can do that because he's versatile in that regard. And Keandre Miller has had such a up and down year. I mean, you want to talk about a guy that if we want to talk about Fox, right? We talk about Fox and he plays with Carson Soucy, he plays with Ryan Lindgren, he plays with nobody. How is he expected to succeed? Why are we not talking about Keandre Miller the same way? Because he's playing with Vakanainen. He's playing with the same guys that stink as well and does not get I understand he's not to the same level of Adam Fox. I'm not comparing the two. But if you're going to say that Adam Fox has had a down year, and Adam Fox hasn't had a down year. Adam Fox has been incredible this year. He's been
61 points in 72 games. And
sat with a pile of hurt.
I think
if you play Keandre Miller with a competent defenseman, if you throw, I mean, I don't know if you'd ever put Fox.
What about putting him with Adam Fox?
Yes, put him with Adam Fox. They are statistically and analytically one of the best pairs in the National Hockey League when they play together. And I've been screaming about it for a year and a half. And for whatever reason or another, I'm not in the room, but they're not putting them together. And whether that's Laviolette, whether that's the general manager, I don't know. But at the same time, if you're not going to put those two together, if you can go out and get a competent defensive defenseman to play with Keandre Miller, you will have the name that I keep seeing coming across, and I believe is a UFA this year, is Gavrikov out in LA.
That is one that's on my list. Yep.
If you go out and you get Gavrikov and you play him with either Keandre Miller or you play him with Adam Fox, I'd rather him play with Keandre Miller on the second pairing if that were to be the case. Yep. I'm sure you will unlock something in Keandre Miller. But if you're playing him every single night with Vakanainen, Soucy, or Will Borgen's fine, but I don't think he's anything special. Even Zach Jones, I don't think those guys are going to get Keandre Miller to be the level he needs to be because he's having to fall back defensively and get. How many times have we seen him this year as the last guy in a 2-on-1? And everybody gets pissed at him for playing a 2-on-1 improperly. I mean, the team as a whole gives up a ungodly amount of odd man rushes. But how many times is Keandre Miller that guy back that gets singled out because he's doing his job?
I think Miller, he needs, unless you're going to put him with Fox, that mitigates the situation. If you're not, he needs a right defenseman that is a true defensive defenseman that is going to be behind him at all times because that frees up his game. Adam Fox needs somebody who's just not bad. I mean, I've said it on this show so many times. None of the other top defensemen in the league play with Ryan Lindgren or Carson Soucy. It just does not happen. And the Rangers moved Lindgren, opened up the door to put Keandre Miller up there with him and see what they have with those two together on a consistent basis. And they opted to acquire Carson Soucy, and we all said it was going to happen, and it did. And they played Carson Soucy there. It makes no sense at all what they are doing. And to me, you had a situation this year where you could have entered this offseason with Adam Fox and Braden Schneider as the only 2 defensemen under contract. And you could have had, similar to what Boston had, $15 to $20 million in cap space to then go out, move a Kreider, increase your cap space, and completely revamp everything. Now what you've done is you acquired Carson Soucy, who, like you said, has moderate no trade protection. So you have to find a way to move him. And nobody's going to really want him, so you might have to add something on that too. You signed Vakanainen and Will Borgen to deals out of nowhere. The Will Borgen deal came out of nowhere for absolutely no reason. He had like 5 or 6 really good games to start his Rangers tenure, and they gave him $4.1 million. Vakanainen, there was no need to sign him. Is somebody whispering in Drury's ear, oh, this guy Vakanainen, there's going to be a race this offseason to land him? It's just not going to happen. If you wanted to sign him, you could have signed him at any point in the offseason. So you saddled yourself now in a situation where you're forced to look at trade options before you could sign people. And by the time the people that you want to sign you have the ability to talk to them, they're already gone because you have to make a trade first. So it's all dumb. It's all been self-inflicted wounds, both on the ice and in the front office. And there's so many names out there this year, like Duchesne, Besser, Nikolai Ehlers, Ryan Donato, Sam Bennett, Mitch Marner, Tavares, guys that I don't think Marner or Tavares are in their price range, but Duchesne, Besser, Bennett, Ehlers, those are guys that would interest me. And then you have
what cap
Ivan
do we
Provorov.
have now?
$9 million.
They have
That's
$9 million. If they
We-
get rid of the full Kreider, it's 6.5. You get rid of full Soucy, that's another basically $10 million. But
So they're going to be the same team next year.
and
I hope
barring any
everyone's ready
trades,
for that. I hope
Barring
everyone's
any
ready.
trades,
It's going to
yeah.
be the same exact team next year, and
but, like,
they're going to suck.
you can get Dante Fabro relatively inexpensive. I think that would be a solid ad for the second or third pair. There are guys that they could have made moves to get, and now you're in a situation where you kind of have forced your own hand to make these moves and acquire talent via trade, which, based on the trade it makes, Drury either really misses or really hits, right? There's no in between with this guy. So it's going to be a tough offseason to get better, because even if you move Kreider, that's only 6.5. I don't think it's the right time to move Alexei Lafreniere yet. I think you have to give him one more year, just come in fresh slate, give him that ability to get rid of that top line that, they keep falling back to Trocheck, Panarin, and Lafreniere. Just break that up, influx some younger kids into that group. But unless you're going to move Trocheck, who has a moderate no trade, which I don't see them doing now that they have JT Miller, you're kind of stuck with the same forward grouping kids, barring who you replace Chris Kreider with, and you're kind of stuck with the same defense, barring one trade and then one signing, which their signing might just wind up being Keandre Miller.
It's a mess. It's a nightmare.
And then you also gave $1.5 million to Jonathan Quick for no reason, but whatever.
Yeah. Maybe in a perfect world, we could sneak in and get like Keandre Miller for 4.6 or 4.7, because I know that he said he really wants to just sign short term. If someone beats that, again, I'll take a first round pick for him. No problem.
What about offer sheeting JJ Peterka?
Well, I've read that the craziest thing about all this is like Drury's such a slimy scumbag who's bad at his job. Maybe he's the one who starts offer sheeting some players, but you need cap to do that, and the Rangers don't really
need draft
have
capital to do it. You don't have a first this year, maybe.
Yeah, you need cap, and you need great point, and you need draft capital, which the Rangers have none of because they killed 2 birds with 1 stone. They have no cap because they gave up their draft capital to get guys that are taking up their cap that now no one will take for them. It's just a bad hockey team that realistically isn't going to get better next year.
Is New York hockey in the biggest hellhole that you could be in right now between the Rangers and Islanders? I mean, the Rangers and Islanders are going to miss. They both missed the playoffs this year. Both of their American Hockey League teams suck. The Bridgeport Islanders had like 4 wins at home this year. They went like 4-20-1. The Wolfpack were awful. I mean, the Devils, if they're in the Western Conference, missed the playoffs, right?
Well,
like they got
the Wolfpack. Half the Wolfpack is now with the Rangers.
Well, yeah. I mean, half the Wolfpack is with the Rangers. And
they had Hoffman,
Rangers.
Berard.
Wolfpack would beat the Rangers by 50 if Igor was in both nets.
So the lineup
think that's
actually
possible.
just got dropped for tonight. So For the final game of the season, no Brett Berard again. Artemi Panarin, Trocheck, and Gabe Perreault is the top line. Brennan Othman, JT Miller, and Alexi Lafreniere line 2. Chris Kreider, Mika Zibanejad, and Will Cooley is line 3. And then Brodzinski, Carrick, and Rempe finishes it up. Then Miller,
Wait,
Borgen,
can you say that third line again? Sorry.
Kreider,
It's opening day.
Zibanejad, and Cooley. He just reverted back to game 1 because he's got nothing else up his sleeve.
Hasn't Panarin, Trocheck, and Othman been otherworldly? Like the three of them, I was reading something that
They've been good, but again, no offense from Othman, and the kid's got to score a goal. On defense, you have Miller, Borgen, of course, Robertson and Fox, Uro, Vakanainen, and Zach Jones. So no changes.
Hurt?
No, he's probably not. I mean, he's just been bad. So
He's on the.
Now,
oh my god!
It's game 82 of the regular season, right?
I hope
Last
they get
game,
pumped.
you're eliminated. There's nothing to play for. Somebody explain to me why Brett Berard's not in the lineup. If you can give me any explanation that makes any type
Peter
of sense.
Laviolette is a scumbag loser who.
Well, outside of the noticeable, right? We know that this is either a coach's decision. It has to be a coach's decision, but like why? Right? It just doesn't. You have the opportunity to give these kids playing time right now, and you could give them all top 6 minutes. Like there's no reason for them to be spread out around the lineup.
Who's the fourth line again?
Fourth line is Brodzinski, Carrick, and Rempe.
Brodzinski doesn't need to be in the lineup.
Yeah, that's what I was gonna say. But the thing is, like,
just Kreider. But I guess it's his last game.
Like, it sucks to say because Brodzinski is someone who like tries every game, so you kind of want to give that some credence. But like, Brett Berard should be on the ice in Game 82 over Johnny Brodzinski. Like, it doesn't make any sense. Like, every game is so important. No, he has, and I love Brodzinski, and I don't want to take him out. But if you're asking me for Game 82, that it doesn't matter. Brett Berard should be in the lineup. And like, honestly, you could also take out Carrick and put Brodzinski as 4C. Either of those options work for me, but these guys just don't understand how important every minute is on the ice for these young guys when they've played so few minutes in the NHL. And they think the opposite. They think, what is this extra game going to mean for like Brett Berard's future? But that mindset just shows you how little they know about it. Yeah, they just don't know anything. And I wonder if it's Drury or Laviolette. Like if Drury is letting Laviolette make any decisions, that's just moronic. Because God willing, Peter Laviolette's on the street in 24 hours and never getting another job. But I mean, Peter Laviolette, I've never seen a coach like make so many lose so many games before the game has even started. Like, and I'm not even talking.
Quinn?
Oh, that was another one. But David Quinn had significantly worse teams.
Did you not watch Alain Vigneault in 2016?
Brett Berard's the type of kid that's come into the lineup.
It's not this.
Every single thing that you asked him to do right. And now you're like, what kind of messages is sent to him? I know it's the last 2 games, but you're going to be scratched the last 2 games of the year, despite you being the only one of our prospects to actually come up and have produced offensive numbers and played on the 3rd and 4th line the whole time.
And the funniest thing is, if it wasn't Brett Berard, it would have been Othman and Perreault. Like, those were the guys he was choosing between.
Yeah, it was
like, it wasn't like Brodzinski or Berard or Berard and Carrick. Like, he was choosing between what young guy. Maybe it's an FU because he knows he's not going to be next year. So he absolutely does not care at all about the future of these kids. But at some point, like, Drury has to step in and be like, you got to play the kids.
He's
all right
this year too.
On a much lighter note, I don't know if you guys have seen the Rangers warm-ups tonight, but they are wearing all number 40 with Rosen on the back, and it is a power play goal patch on their left chest. So
great. No one's there and no one's watching the game. So great from the Rangers to do something for their longtime voice instead of showing up for any of the other 81 games. To maybe he would have had some playoff games, but I'm very much team.
I think they have the same number of power play goal patches as they do power play goals on the season,
which is probably less than goals given up on the power
How
play.
can you have 17 shorthanded goals and miss the playoffs?
So much for the
Rangers.
positive, eh?
Rangers.
No, there's no positive.
So much for the positive. Holy.
The only time they play proper hockey is on the penalty kill. Like, it's the only time they play proper hockey. They play
got
zone
about
defense.
3 minutes. So Steven's right. All right. Better know.
Now, no, let me just keep going.
Season's
Now
over.
me and Steven have gone to watching the Mets with runners and scoring. Like,
Hell
doesn't
no.
get
Hey,
any
listen,
better.
I got a men's league game to go to after this, so I will be watching none of that.
And now I got to watch Juan Soso, not mine. I give that to Frank the Tank, who absolutely
Stop
sucks.
it.
It's
sucks.
so early,
Sucks.
man.
Stop
It is
it.
so early.
Stop it.
Terrible.
Stop
He's
it.
terrible. I got
This
15
is-
years of this
Stop it.
bullshit now.
Music to my ears right now, man.
Stop it. Stop it.
He's so bad. If
Enough.
the Mets didn't have Pete Alonso, they would be
But
and
they do.
whatever.
But they do have Pete Alonso.
But thank God. Thank God. Like, and we're gonna have to give him $1 billion next year, or else he's gonna go elsewhere.
Good
You know
thing,
that,
good thing
So-
Steve Cohen's the
You know
richest
that
man on planet Earth.
Wolverine? You know the Wolverine meme where he's holding the picture, right?
Yeah.
And he's like, yeah, that's what Juan Soto's doing with the Yankees right now.
Dude,
I would trade him to you for Ben Rice.
Mike Puma.
I would
Mike
do that in a
Puma.
heartbeat because he's going to be good again. Best hitter in baseball hitting behind
He's
him.
awful.
Stop
He's
it.
awful.
Stop it. It is 45 degrees at every game that they play. It's 15 games into the year. I've been pissed at Soto as a joke just for the bit in my Mets group chat. Outside, dude, stop it. He's not striking out more. He's not striking out more. Just please, for the love of God, if we've learned nothing from last year, let's get to July and see how things are going.
You could pay Daniel Vogelback to walk. That's all I'll say. You could pay him not to swing the bat and walk, and that's what Juan Soso is doing.
Yeah, except
While
people are not
complaining-
pitching
while
Vogelback the same
complaining
way they're
about
pitching
Aaron-
Soto.
Well, he's complaining about Aaron while he's got the best hitter in baseball literally behind him this season. He's literally
He's
had-
not complaining.
Okay. Judge is hitting
He's not
409
complaining.
with 7 homers and 21
at the time where he said to the post, "Oh, they're pitching to me different." What is it, Pete Alonso? I mean, Pete Alonso's hot as hell.
Big brain move. Bringing in Soto only helped Pete Alonso.
They should switch them in the
unlike
lineup. They
Pete
should
Alonso.
honestly switch them in the lineup.
All right. Well, we're going to have a whole offseason to talk about the Rangers' moves in baseball. So I think we got 2 minutes before Sam Rosen's last call. I think it's time that we depart. Any final thoughts about the game tonight?
Please, for the love of God, all things that is holy, score a power play goal tonight. I don't care
Yeah,
how
you
it
have to.
happens.
You
have to get one on the power play tonight. I don't care if you lose 100-1. If that one goal is on the power play, then good.
If you watch the game for any reason other than to hear Sam Rosen, which I'm totally fine with, you're a sucker.
Wait, one more. Have that power play goal be the overtime winner. There you go.
Yeah, I think you got to end on a win. Try to get a positive note out of this, especially for Sam. But like you said, it has to be one power play goal. If they go 0 for 4 on a power play tonight, Jesus.
Give up a shorthanded goal.
Oh man, it's just he's going to be so demoralized. I wonder what they're going to do after the game, if anything, for him. But we shall see. Enjoy Sam Rosen's final call. He will be missed. We will talk at some point. I don't know if we're going to do every week, every other week in the offseason, but we'll be back.
We should, hang on. Let's hash this out right now. We should do playoffs. We should go through the playoffs and
all right, let's do
whether it's
playoffs.
Ranger talk or not.
I said to my girlfriend, it's going to be nice to watch good hockey for once. So
yeah, there you go. We'll give our playoff predictions. When the playoffs start? Saturday.
Yep.
So we'll be halfway in at that point. Do we want to give our playoff predictions right before just the first
we'll
round?
do a bracket and then we'll post it.
Yeah. All right.
Enjoy the game. Enjoy Sam Rosen's last call. We will see you soon.
See you guys.